If you've ever wondered why your granny square doesn't lay flat, or you've been a little discouraged because the corners are a little rounded, then you're in good company. It's a perfect 2-Minute Tuesday. So the reason you would block a granny square is pretty simple and pretty important: to give it a perfectly square shape that you wish it had right off of the hook, because that rarely happens, no matter how much experience you have. These squares have not been blocked. Notice the points of the corners are slightly rounded and the edges aren't perfectly straight. The blocking process itself is quite straightforward. Begin by saturating your squares with water, carefully wring out the extra water, and pin the square onto a blocking mat. These mats I bought from Amazon. They're really great for blocking granny squares specifically because of the grid that you see. Each one of these little blocks is a 1-inch by 1-inch square. So if you're looking for a 5-inch by 5-inch granny square like I am here, well, I just count 5 over, 5 down, pin it out, and then start working on the edges to make them perfectly straight. Even if you only finish maybe one granny square project a year or less, I'd say these blocking mats are still a worthwhile investment because, well, you can block all sorts of projects with them, not just granny squares. As you're pinning it out, it's really important that you stretch the square slightly. Not too much, because that'll make the square look a little bit wonky and stretched out, but if you don't stretch it enough, it's not going to do anything at all. The idea is to have the perfect amount of tension on the stitches, so that way when the yarn dries, they kind of stick in this slightly stretched position that hopefully is perfectly square based on where you place your pins. Make sure you let the blocks dry completely, usually overnight, before you remove the pins. That way you know that they're good and stuck in that position. I also like to batch block my granny squares whenever I'm working on a bigger project. It just makes it a little bit easier to I only have to do the fine tuning once, and then I can just add blocks on top of it. Now, if you're still brand new to crochet and you haven't actually tried a granny square yet, what are you waiting for? Like, it's one of the coolest little projects that you can take with you. They're honestly really great summer projects because they're super portable, they're really small, you're not having a ton of yarn sitting on your lap. You don't even have to have a project in mind for them. You can just make granny squares and turn it into something later. So if you have no idea how to crochet a granny square, I typed up one of the most thorough, in-depth, easy to follow, beginner-friendly guides that the internet has to offer on how to crochet granny squares. I'll also publish a couple more videos this month featuring this fun, iconic little square. I hope it inspires you to create something with granny squares this summer. Then that's all I have to say. So did we do it? Did we get it done in 2 minutes or less? I mean, I kind of hardly believe that. If only you knew how many minutes I have been recording to make this video. If this is something that you find interesting and helpful, then let me know in the comments and I'll make more videos like this. Happy hooking, and I'll see you in the next one.